Hello, David Holland of EXELA. Welcome to ScaleUp Radio. Please introduce yourself and your business to us.
Thanks very much, Granger. Great to be on the show. My business is, as you say, is called EXELA. We've been going 22 years. So my background is very corporate in sales and marketing, Procter and Gamble, Kraft Foods, IBM. And then about 22 years ago, I had an entrepreneurial seizure, as Michael Gerber would describe it, and started my own business. And really what I was trying to do when we started was just to provide really some sales backbone, some sales skills, knowledge, and systems for medium-sized to small businesses. And then as we've been going for the last sort of 20 years, we now really provide marketing and sales systems for mainly small businesses. So our usual customer would be a small business owner, 2, 3, 4 people in the business, maybe a little bit more for some of our customers. And we just provide the lead generation marketing funnel type systems for those types of businesses.
And in terms of systems, are we talking computer systems? Are we talking you help them create processes and procedures? What do you mean by a system?
Yeah, great questions. I learned fairly early on that people love to implement computer systems because that gives them a reason for doing things, a reason for actually making change. But the reality of the world, as you know, is, you've got to think about it. You can't just do what the computer tells you to do. You've got to think about the process and the systems in your business. So these days, really, it's a little bit of a blend between being guided by what the computer systems suggest you should do, but then having some real core kind of common sense and some diligence around what are you going to make your systems, because the computer systems are only tools. So they're really there to support and automate the human systems and processes. So we shouldn't let the tools drive what we do, although a lot of R&D goes into these tools so that they are moving in the correct direction. So it's really good to be guided by the computer systems, but still have a written down process. When this happens, this is what we do. And then when this happens, this is what we do. And I'm a big fan, especially when it comes to sales systems, I'm a big fan of scripts. So when somebody says, this is the sort of response that we're going to give, and I know that most people talking to prospects on the telephone, they don't like scripts and they go off script quite a lot. But at the end of the day, the people who win Oscars follow the script. They're good at interpreting the script and they're good at saying it, but they're following the script. Brad Pitt is not just going, oh, leave it to me, I'll make it up at the weekend when we get going with that shot. He's following a script, and that's really important, particularly in the sales side. After you come through the marketing and you get into the human to human contact, which is in sales, then scripts, and then systems or computer processes and computer systems support that, so you know where you're up to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, really interesting. I never thought about it in terms of scripts and winning Oscars. A great statement that is. Yes, yeah. Must get Brad Pitt to try and come and do some of my sales calls, I think. So
the Brad Pitt or Elizabeth Hurley are the ones we want. Yeah.
Definitely.
Probably Elizabeth Hurley.
So give us a feeling. How big is your business now? Because you've said 22 years. What sort of size are you, and what?
Yeah, we've flexed over the years. So at the moment, there's 5 of us involved in the business, and there have been more and there have been less over the years, but 5 is right for what we're trying to do now. We're very focused on helping gritty entrepreneurs. We all come across lots of small business owners who have a business and they're kind of quite happy with it. So they're not really trying to grow, or if they're trying to grow, they're only really trying to get a few more customers to replace lost customers. And what we're really trying to look for is the gritty entrepreneurs that actually do want to grow. They want to double the size of the business or add 20, 30% more sales to their business. And they're the gritty entrepreneurs that we really work with and we're looking for. And they take some time and energy to work well with them and deliver good quality input to them. So we don't want masses. We want just the right sort of attitude from our customers so that we can be as helpful and as creative as we possibly can. So right now there's 5 of us involved in the business. I've got 3 guys who are very good technicians, so they really know the systems, the computer systems very well. They know what they can do, they know how to bend them. And then myself and somebody else that works more on the, let's say, the process design part of the business, talking to the customers and figuring out a bit more creativity and a little bit of expanding the thinking that our customers have to get that growth into the business, to get more business coming towards them and into the funnels, which the technical side of my business kind of set up for them.
Okay. So what would you say then makes you different? Why do these gritty entrepreneurs come and work with you guys?
It's an interesting question, isn't it, about being different? I don't try and be different. That's not our objective, is to be different from other people.
Yeah.
Our objective really is to be authentic. Our objective is to be helpful. Our objective is to be collaborative. If that makes us different, happy days, but that's not really the point of what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is to find some mindshare connection with our customers where ultimately we like each other and we trust each other. So we'll make some suggestions and we'll try things with our customers, and not everything we suggest will work. We know the computer systems will work, but what we're trying to do is come up with creative ideas in order to get more prospects to come into the funnel. So we've got to think in terms of what our customers' prospects are really looking for. You have to flex and you have to trust, our customers have to trust us, and we have to trust our customers that they can then deliver if we get them a consistent flow of leads. That's always the problem we're trying to solve. How do we get a consistent flow of high quality leads coming into a business? And if we can do that, then we've achieved our objective. It's then down to the business and the business owner and the business sales team to convert those leads into customers.
Yeah.
We can't impact that as much, but we can impact getting the right people in as leads in the first place. So that's where we focus.
And the role that you do in terms of helping the marketing develop and improve in small businesses, what's the marketplace like? Is it very competitive?
I would say there's lots of people playing around in that marketplace, but it's not particularly competitive of what we do and how we produce. I rarely come across companies that think about things in the same way as we do. I think we're right, but hey, who knows? So it really is, it's unusual to find a marketing company that is so focused on figuring out how to get a consistent flow of good quality leads coming in. There's lots of really good and talented web guys, there's great brand strategists, there's copywriters, there's also the graphic designers. We don't do any of those, although we do have aspects of those involved into the final product. What we spend most of the time doing is thinking about how do we get people into the top of the marketing funnel. I'm sure all the listeners have heard the term marketing funnel, but maybe not thought about it so much. The reason it's called a funnel is it's fat at the top and thin at the bottom. And the reason it's fat at the top is because it's catching different streams, different drips coming into it. Okay, that's why it's a funnel shaped. If there was a fire hose coming in, you'd call it a pipe rather than a funnel. So the reason it is wide at the top is to catch these drips. But these drips are being attracted into the top of the funnel. So what we need to do with our customers is to work out, well, how are we getting that stream coming in from over there? And how are we getting that stream coming in from a different place? And how are we getting that stream coming in from a different place again? And that's really around focusing on the needs of the particular targets. Yeah. So you may well have 4, 5, 6 particular targets for your marketing copy. That's different from ideal customers. That's different even from ideal prospects. We need to do something to stop those people scrolling through their phone, scrolling on the phone, and something that gets their attention, and then get them to think about getting them into the top of the funnel with something that they actually want, Once they're in our marketing funnel, then we can start communicating the value. But we've got to get them in the marketing funnel in the first place. We can't just start talking to them about our value because they're not in the least bit interested. And when I say our value, the customer's value. So we have to talk about what they're interested in, get these streams coming into the top of the funnel. Once they're in the funnel, we then effectively process them down, build a big list, make friends with a list, and then we make offers to the list at the bottom of the funnel for the customers or the prospects at this point to engage with the salespeople. So again, we've got to be saying interesting things and valuable things to the people all the way through the funnel to get them to say, yeah, I am actually interested in talking to a salesperson about my problem because I think you might have an interesting solution. I don't know yet, but I'm going to go from marketing into sales. And that's what we're doing. Attracting people into the top of the funnel, making friends, developing relationships with people in the middle of the funnel, and then making offers to people at the bottom of the funnel, not necessarily offers to buy, but offers to engage in sales conversation at the bottom of the funnel. And they're the three strategies, if you like, to fulfill the objective being to get a consistent flow of new leads coming into the business, which is what happens at the bottom of the funnel.
Well, I think that's a really inspirational set of marketing thinking you've given us there already. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. So we started with a conversation about the marketplace and were you different? And actually maybe, you are different in terms of some of your passions that drive you in terms of this consistent flow. Does the marketplace change? You've been in there 22 years. Has it changed? Is it different? What's it like today?
Yeah, it's certainly nuanced over the years, and sometimes the external economics are different. So in the last 22 years, we've had, I don't know how many recessions because I don't count them, but there will have been a few in there. There'll be some boom times. So that always affects the general kind of marketplace. Most of my customers are entrepreneurs. So most of my customers, it's irrelevant what the market in general is doing. They still need to move their business forward. They still need to do things. So while, there might be a little bit more caution around at certain times, most of the time, switched on, gritty entrepreneurs that want to grow their business, which is our customers, rather than people that are sat back and waiting, they're not really our customers. Entrepreneurs that want to grow, irrespective of the macro kind of economics surrounding the country or on the continent or even in the world, they're always wanting to grow. They're always wanting to do things. So from that point of view, it's very consistent. From the point of view of how do you communicate with a prospect, that unchanged for years, which is you have to talk the language of your customer. Claude Hopkins in scientific advertising in the 1930s was talking about this, about how you actually need to talk in the language and say something that's interesting to your customers. Now, he was actually deploying around with newspaper advertising. So that it was newspaper adverts, but they were still trying to get direct response. And that's the key, is get direct response, get people to actually come into the top of your funnel. They didn't call it funnels in the 1930s, but people were just directly responding and cutting coupons out and sending them in. That's exactly the same as we're doing now. We've got the internet and we've got some digital tools that we use, but conceptually and getting into the headspace of our customers is exactly the same. It's always been the same. For sure, we've now got lots of new and funky tools. We've got more language and different language that people respond to because things have been labeled differently as the internet's grown. People invent labels all the time and some of them stick. The label at the moment is if you stick AI onto anything at the moment, then it gets people's attention. And I look at it and I'm a little bit cynical, I have to say, but some of the stuff that people are saying about AI is complete and utter nonsense. And some of the things that they're describing as AI that's not AI, that's just automation. AI itself, artificial intelligence, has been around since 1957, and it's built into all sorts of different products and processes. And it's now ChatGPT, which is in itself a brilliant marketing coup. And ChatGPT has become a trending word on the internet, so people are now hooked into it. So that's a good example of how you can use what's trending to get into the consciousness of your audience. But you still have to add some value to it after you've hooked them. It's no good having just clickbait type stuff, where you have to then have a good thought through funnel to educate them, to bring them through, to get them to talking to your sales guys, salespeople at the end of the marketing funnel.
Yeah.
So
at the end of the day, people buy from people.
Absolutely. And they only buy what they want to buy. That you cannot hoodwink. You can hoodwink people once, but not twice. And you can't hoodwink anybody. So you really have to figure out what it is that people want to buy, and then make your products and service provide a solution for them. You can't just make it up and expect to get away with that forever.
Yeah.
Although there are, of course, plenty of internet gurus who we come across who are trying really hard to get away with nonsense forever, but that it's always been so. I'm sure it was always so in magazines and newspapers and TV prior to the internet. But we don't like those sorts of people. We just like genuine, authentic conversations with our customers. Take the hype out of it, and let's get down to something that really works and really delivers.
Yeah, and I totally agree in terms of the Chat GPT. It's interesting in the number of articles from November when it was launched to what's now in your daily feed in terms of information. You can now get courses on how to ask the best questions of Chat GPT and things like that. And that only started appearing in the last 2 weeks, I've noticed, in terms of doing things.
Yeah, prompt. You said prompt engineering is a new term that's been invented. Well, and it's like nonsense, isn't it? Because it's nothing different than ChatGPT when it first came out, which is, if you just seed it and ask the right questions, which is a prompt, it gives you a good answer. But that's always been true in marketing. If you ask your customers the right questions, or your prospects the right questions, they'll tell you what it is that they're looking for, and then you can respond. And it's exactly the same with ChatGPT, which is ask it the right questions and it gives you a good output.
Yeah.
Quality in, quality out.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so I like that. And the realization of, that it's effectively a marketing type tool, but not a marketing to make marketing, but actually it's just replying to questions that you're asking it. So the better the questions, the better the replies will be. So, yeah.
And there's actually so much in ChatGPT, but if you look at the platform behind it, so if you go into the OpenAI API and the OpenAI, you can turn the temperature. They have this setting, which is temperature. You can actually select which of the large language models you're using, and then you can change the temperature. So if you have the temperature set by default, ChatGPT runs at 0.7. But 0.7, that means if I don't know the answer, I'm going to make stuff up, is what ChatGPT is doing. But if you turn it down to 0.3, you only get accurate answers that it knows what the answer is. So again, if you are using something like ChatGPT for marketing purposes, and it's a great brainstorming kind of tool to do that, you need to be aware of it's not fact-checked material that it's delivered back. It's not even internet search. It's picked that up from its training base, which ChatGPT 4 has just been released, which was trained in 2021. So anything after 2021, it has no knowledge of it. So you do need to be a little bit careful with those types of things. And even then, Granger, we do a lot of copywriting. Maybe 2 years ago, one of the things that I recognized that my customers needed was copywriting, because they've got good ideas, they know how to run their business, but they're not very good at generating copy. So back in 2000, what are we in, 23? So it was probably 2021, maybe 20. Yeah, maybe 20. I found a tool called, which was in those days, it was called Conversion AI. It was rebranded to Jarvis, and then Marvel Comics or Disney had a conversation with that company and they rebranded it to Jasper, an AI generated marketing copywriting tool. And the way I describe it, we use it all the time for our clients. Okay. And the way I describe it to the clients is, hey, look, this is a junior copywriter. It's not a senior, experienced copywriter. It's a junior copywriter. But what it doesn't get tired, it doesn't take holidays, it doesn't take coffee breaks. So if you feed it good stuff, it feeds you the basis of good copy. And it then requires editing. Even the best copywriters on the planet still have other people editing the output. All the AI stuff, it's a great, very inexpensive copywriter, but you do need to edit what it says and tweak a few things and just check a few facts and change the language and the nuances, particularly if what you're doing if you work in a technical industry, it's not going to know the technology that you're working in, whether it's engineering or medical science or biomedical science or whatever. It's not going to know that. So you do have to review it. But what it's enabled companies like mine to do is to solve a problem for our customers, which is to generate an awful lot of content on behalf of our clients that they just wouldn't have been able to do before.
Yeah.
And we're pilots of that technology. Nowadays, I might rename it and say we're prompt engineers, although I do think that is a bit hocus of a term. But so I like to think of it as we're pilots of the technology, and we know how to get the best out of it at quickest. We know, because we know our clients, we can take out some of the material which I know is inaccurate. But then I do require my clients to actually read it and say, yes, that's a good blog article, or that's a social post, or that's a good sales page, whatever it is we're doing, because they're the only ones that know the company. But certainly the technology and AIs, the productivity is increased no end in the last 2 or 3 years.
Some really interesting thoughts there from marketing all the way through to technologies and how to use it. I like the expression pilots of technology. Yeah, what a fantastic phrase. So let's talk about the business at EXELA over the last 22 years, explore that. So what went right? What's gone wrong? What learnings could you give our audience?
I'll very briefly explain the journey. When I first started, I was single-handed coming out of the corporate world. And I worked with a few clients really as a kind of a sales manager, sales director, hired gun type individual. And then mid noughties, I guess, about 2005, one of the problems I had was there was lots of systems that automated the sales pipeline. So CRMs that took care of sales stages and could be used by salespeople. I used to use Salesforce at the time with one of my clients. But there really was no good systems for marketing. So sales, yes. Marketing, no. Marketing automation wasn't really a thing in those days. And I came across a piece of technology called Infusionsoft. And I used Infusionsoft for my business for about 3 years. And one of the things I would end up doing was suggesting to my customers that, yeah, for the marketing and for the lead flow, they might want to look at getting some marketing system. Why not have a look at Infusionsoft? That would be a valuable thing for them to do. And I just used to let them get on with it. And it was only about 2009, 2010 that I switched the way I approached it to become a reseller of Infusionsoft. So it was the same conversation. It was just I was approaching it from a slightly more nuanced and more intentional place of, yeah, okay, now I'm reselling Infusionsoft to the same people. And what they needed was some help implementing it, because while I used to recommend it and I used to use it myself, there was nobody around that could help them implement it. So that's what we started doing in 2010. Got a few people involved. Actually, it was a conference in 2009. It was just me at the time at this conference. And I was thinking about, it was an Infusionsoft conference. And I was thinking about, how do I scale? How do I grow? And it dawned on me, and I've repeated this many times as advice to people, that what I needed to do was to sack myself, fire myself, okay, and give myself a 3-month workout contract, which now meant I had to go and hire some other people to do what I was doing, which means I needed to write down what I was doing and actually without wishing to be unkind or flippant, dumb down what I was doing to be, yeah, just do this. So take all the fluff out of it. And this was the core. So that's exactly what I did in 2010. So by February 2010, I'd hired a few people, trained them up on how to work with clients to implement our processes and systems, how to implement Infusionsoft into small businesses. And that's really what we did. That allowed me to not be the business anymore. It allowed me to get myself out of the business. I was still running the business, but I wasn't the business because I'd fired myself. And since then, I do have a rule, which is I'm not allowed to invent anything in the business that involves me. I can invent things all the time, but if I invent it, it's got to involve somebody else doing it. Otherwise, I'm just reinventing, giving myself a job. My job is to run the business. My job is to not be the business. So that was a piece of advice that I'd give anybody that's in a business where they're running the business themselves and they are the business, is sack yourself, get somebody in to do what you do, and you move up, sideways, whichever makes sense to you. And that allows you to build a much more sustainable business because you're not it. You're not doing the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I like that.
So we did that. We've been doing that since 2010, really. Infusionsoft, by the way, changed the name of their business from Infusionsoft to Keep. So now if you look for Infusionsoft, you'll find Keep is the name. KEAP.com is the business. It's a CRM system. I've looked at a lot of marketing automation systems over the years, and I still believe that Keep is probably the best tool for the marketing automation of a small business. Okay, it doesn't do everything, but it does do most things the way that you'd expect them to be done and done well. So we're still big resellers of Keep. That's one very good, profitable, strong part of the business. And the other part of the business, which I'm just launching actually, is specifically into aesthetic clinics to start off with. So aesthetic clinics, so that would be clinics that are doing facial aesthetics, Botox, Restylane, that type of thing, as well as skin treatments and dermaplane and all that type of stuff, where we're focused on helping them get a consistent flow of new leads into their business. So again, we've built these tools out that make running Facebook ads really easy. And we've got templated Facebook ads that are proven and work that they could use. And then funnel pages, so landing pages that look beautiful and really work well. And then emails and SMS follow-ups all the time. What we're trying to do in that particular business is to get bookings for our clinics. So Keep is more general businesses. And then the Go EXELA business is very focused on aesthetic clinics. When I've got 20, 30, 50, 100 customers in that, then I can just shift the niche and probably do the same thing. I'm probably going to do the next niche will be wealth managers, IFAs, that type of industry, because those industries tend to talk about product as opposed to customer benefit a lot. And you've got to talk about customer benefit in order to get the customer interested in your product. So those industries are very technical industries. Yeah. Dentistry would be another one that where most of the conversations coming from the dental practices talk about dentistry. That's not actually what the customer wants to talk about. They want to talk about the benefits that they'll get, or the benefits they'll get from aesthetics, or the benefits they'll get from a pension, as opposed to technically here's the detail of it, which is as boring as hell.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of the next venture that we're going into. Technically it's not a different business. It'll be the same limited company, but inside this building it is separated out as a new business, so a new startup. So it's very exciting.
Definitely. So how do you ensure you recruit the right people then to join the business and take you forwards? Well,
it's a great question. It's a very topical question. How do you get the right people? In the marketing world, of course, most of the tools and the technology that we're using are only just being invented as we're talking. So it's not that you can find people that have got years of experience of using the tools, because GPT and all the technologies hasn't even been invented yet. So that finding the right people is always has been and still is about attitude. I think it's a fabulous time, particularly to be a young person getting involved in digital marketing at the moment, because you can really find something that you're interested in. And within a couple of weeks, you can be the world expert in it because it's so new and nobody else is doing it. It doesn't matter what your age is. You can focus on something and be the world expert very quickly if you've got the interest. You've got to be interested in it. You've got to be interested in its value, and its value is in serving your customer.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you'll find people will gladly pay you money to help them. If this product's a service that serves them well, they'll pay you to do it, because otherwise they'd have to learn it themselves, which is hard work. Nobody likes learning stuff. It's much easier to pay somebody else to do it.
Yes, very true. So in terms of then the marketing industry, you've been in it 20 years, more than that, in terms of your own entrepreneurial space and finding gritty entrepreneurs. What drives you crazy about the industry? What would you change if you had a magic wand?
I'm not sure I would necessarily change anything. I get frustrated, and anybody else, you come across entrepreneurs that think that by buying a piece of software, it's going to change their business. The software is only the tool. It's them that changes the business by using the tool effectively.
Yeah.
There is no panacea. Your checkbook cannot write you a successful business. That's not, unfortunately, how it works. So there's still plenty of people that I come across. Not many of them become our clients now, because we usually discover this as we're in the early stages of working with somebody, that I just need them to be more interested in their business than I am. Because if they're not more interested than I am, that's going to be a problem at some point in the future. I'm a very excitable chap, so I'm usually very interested in their business at the beginning, but ultimately they've got to take ownership. So we still get that. There's still plenty of people out there, still plenty of business owners out there that think that somebody else is going to come along and sell you or tell you the panacea for all your ills. And it's unlikely. It's unlikely. You have to be prepared to collaborate with them and work together in a partnership to help yourself become successful. And they can help you be successful, but you have to make yourself successful. I would wave a magic wand and change that if I could, but I'm not sure that's ever going to change. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And I often say to my clients, you can outsource the activity of marketing, but you can't outsource the responsibility of marketing, because a business is about marketing. That is what sells a business. That sells the products and services. So you have to take ownership of that throughout the entire journey of a business growth. Yeah, very true.
And it's a project management skill, Granger. That ultimately that's what it is. You've got a project and you've got tasks within the project and milestones and assets that you're constructing. So it's just a project management approach that clients need to have. And they're often very good project managers in the operational side of their business. And then for some reason, they don't see it as a project, as marketing as a project. But if you're a good project manager, a good operational manager, it's just a project. You get people to do this, you get people to do that, you knit it together. The different parties may not even have a good vision of what the whole looks like. But that's okay. If you're the project manager, you can pull that together and look at assets which are reusable. If you ran a factory, if you were in a manufacturing business, that's exactly what you'd do. You'd buy pieces of machinery and pieces of equipment that made things, and you think, yeah, but I can use that here. I can put that to capacity use. Marketing assets and developing marketing assets is exactly the same. They can be multi-use and reusable. So that is a core skill as a business owner, in my opinion, is being a project manager.
Yeah. Fascinating. I do. A project management approach is what marketing is about. And actually, yes, that's very true in terms of pulling the elements together. Because in a factory, though, if I make a widget, I'll make a widget. If I turn this, I do that, I'll make a widget. In a marketing approach, you're doing experimenting until you find those things that work, aren't you? And then you can then switch those on and get those drip different streams into your top of your funnel. So yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just going to say, one of the benefits of working with an agency, whether it's my agency or another agency, is that because we work with different clients, so we see different things in different places. So often you've got something that's quite transferable from one client to another client. It's not competitive. It's not proprietary information or anything. It's just a bit of experience comes across. And that's what working with agencies can bring to the party. Not everything has to be uniquely created. We just reuse stuff. So you've got to be open-minded as a business owner. You've got to be open-minded to what might work. If there's things in other industries that work, happy days. Let's just take them and redeploy them.
Yes, brilliant. Let's just go back to business in terms of, if we were to meet in 5 years' time and we were looking back over the last 5 years, what would have happened both professionally and personally for you to make the 5 years a real success?
The R factor question there from Dan Sullivan. Great question. So what I'd like to do with the EXELA now is we'll keep business running. That's running strong. That tends to focus on expert businesses and providing sales and marketing to expert businesses. So that'll still be running strong. And also I'll have taken this kind of local business. So my approach for this new division or new business that I'm launching, it's focused on local businesses. So local businesses, of course, being that they get their customers from the local community as opposed to local to me, and move that from a number of divisions within that. So the first one we're launching for is aesthetic clinics, aesthetic businesses, and then maybe IFAs, as I say, and move around. So in 5 years, why not 5 divisions where we've been able to replicate the model with good quality advertising copy, good quality follow-up copy, good quality systems and robust systems that come into play that all result in a consistent flow of new business for our clients. And if I can replicate that in multiple niches, then that would be a great 5 years.
And what would stop you achieving that?
Only myself, to be honest with you. We know what works. We know what can work. It's just a case of remaining focused. I am a startup person, if you like, although I haven't started that many businesses. I've started a few businesses over the last 22 years, some of which are still going, some of which aren't. I think I'll be able to start into these niches, bring in a team, the team who can do the creative, the team can run it. I can go off to the next niche and keep doing that and backfill with talented technicians and creatives that can really put the kind of the advertising and the marketing oomph together inside those niches. So there's nothing, in my mind, there's nothing really, it's a simple model. There's nothing complex to it. It doesn't rely on any particular piece of technology. It doesn't rely on macroeconomics. Those businesses are going to exist for the next 5 years, whether I'm involved in them or not. So why not bring a quality product to them that they can buy and get value out of? So there's absolutely no reason why that wouldn't be achievable.
Brilliant. David, what a fantastic conversation today. You started EXELA 22 years ago, but actually what we got into was a real in-depth discussion about marketing, and you gave us some really good advice and some thinking around marketing and the sort of the funnel approach. I love the expression of a computer system's there to help you, but actually you need to do the thinking too. You can't replace that. I love the discussion about Brad Pitt, and I'm going to, or Angelina Jolie, and get them to come and do our sales scripts for us, because actually it's the human-to-human interaction that the sales is about. Your focus on gritty entrepreneurs, I like that terminology for people that want to grow 20-30% in terms of doing that. But finding the people that have authentic collaboration, because actually that's what marketing is really about when you're trying to develop and grow that in terms of everything we do, trying to create that consistent flow. And I think that's a real key thing from the conversation, and how you build that through the different dripping funnel into the top of your funnel. But within the funnel itself, build a list, create the friendships, and then the call to action on the bottom is about taking someone into a sales process, not necessarily selling to them. Your passion for the future in terms of what you're doing with the next stage of your business. It's been a fantastic conversation. And I love that even with all the technology that could exist out there, you talked about finding the right people with the right attitude is what's key to help your business grow and scale. So it's been a fantastic conversation. And David, thank you very much for that. We always finish with a quick fire round, if we may. First sort of things that comes to head. If you could go back to younger you, what advice would you give yourself?
Start faster, actually, probably. I've always been interested in technology, which is good. That's held me in good stead. I'd probably say have more confidence and start faster and start sooner.
Brilliant, thank you. Which books would you recommend?
Apart from my own book, which is the Sales Circuit, which I wrote a couple of years ago, which is available on Amazon and internet bookshops. Win Friends and Influence People, which was Dale Carnegie. That's a good book. Extreme Ownership. That's a really good book. Gerber's E-Myth is a good book. Profit First, actually, there's a book called Profit First, which I think is really helpful for entrepreneurs, that really focuses on about after themselves and be profitable. And then there is another book by the same author called Surge, which is actually quite interesting. But I read lots of books, so to list them all, it would take too long. But there's some real good ones.
I recommend all of those you've said there, and I've read them all myself, and I think they are very powerful books, all of those, definitely. Podcasts, which podcasts do you listen to? Would you recommend?
I have an interest in space. So I actually have my own podcast, which is Above the Kármán Line, it's called, where I've interviewed some people in space. And there's a podcast called The Business of Space, which is a very good podcast by a friend of mine, which is on Spotify, which is all about the new technologies that are coming around in space. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed Dan Sullivan's podcasts. I enjoyed Peter Demidis' podcasts. So you can find any from those authors. They're always good.
And everyone has a good old mobile phone these days. In terms of what apps do you use the most on there or add benefits to you?
Oh, almost certainly the app which I use more than the series of apps that I use more than any other is Google's apps. So Google Suites, so Google Tasks, Google Calendar. And I've got a little process that I use those mobile apps because they also appear on my computer. And everything I do is either in Google Keep, if it's notes, or a Google Task that appears on Google Calendar. And then I'm using the Google Sheets. But it's really remembering to jot things down in Google Tasks. It creates a task, and then I diarize it from there directly into my calendar. And then most of the time it gets done. Sometimes I say, yeah, that's that. It was an idea, but not one I want to do anything with. But most of the time it just goes into the diary and then it gets done. And that's the important thing. It gets done. So boring though it may be, actually the Google suite of apps is probably the most used one on my phone.
Brilliant. Yeah, I've not used it to that degree in terms of its structure, but I can see how that would definitely work. Well done. So my favorite question of all, who's had the most influence on you as a business leader?
Most influence on me as a business leader, there's probably 3 people. So I spent some time with Michael Gerber a couple of years ago, although the individual didn't get on that well with, but the thinking was brilliant. So Michael Gerber, E-Myth, what he talks about. There's a guy called Dan Bradbury who's actually up in Warwickshire, who very much focuses on finance structuring around a business. He's a very good marketeer, but he makes sure that people understand the running of the business. So he's good. I was influenced in my early days by Nigel Bottrell at Entrepreneurs Circle. That was a useful organization, still is. I'm not a member anymore, but that was good. And then I'm a member of Strategic Coach with Dan Sullivan. So a lot of Dan Sullivan's ideas and thinking about thinking and the way that we approach things is extremely useful. So the other people that have influenced me, it in a way doesn't matter who you pick up as a mentor and to what degree they're a mentor. I massively encourage business owners to find some groups and to find some people to follow and talk to and change them around a little bit. You don't have to stay in the same group forever. You can sample different inputs into your brain and into the way of thinking. And the more you can do that, the more you're going to grow.
Brilliantly. And finally, how can people get hold of you?
Easiest way to get hold of me is if you go to the website, which is EXELA, EXELA.co.uk. There's a number of things on there you can click on and put your details in, and I'll connect with you. You can book appointments with me. You can download a copy of my book from the EXELA website. I'll even send you a hard copy if you go onto the website and do that. So that's by far the easiest way to get hold of me. EXELA, which is EXELA.co.uk.
David, thank you very much for a fantastic in-depth conversation about the technologies of marketing and actually the right way to do things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been great chatting with you.